Let's see. Come on. Okay.
Lights, camera, action, and we're back for your satisfaction. Action Business Furniture Studios is where it's happening. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. We don't have John today, so we have this good man right here. Rob is going to take it from here. We're waiting on talent to show, but that really doesn't matter. We want to thank my mortgage Mandy with Q Home Loans for giving us some food today. If it wasn't for her, we would be starving. Isn't that great? So, hey, I'll let Rob take it from here.
All right. Thank you much, Data Mining Mike. So, welcome everybody to our Friday afternoon conversations. Yes, our guest for today's topic is a little bit delayed, so we are holding a bit, but we are going to go ahead and continue the conversation as business owners and learn from each other. So that's one of our favorite things we like to do, business owners and business professionals. So I am just cleaning up something here. So why don't we do this? Those of us who are gathered around the table will introduce ourselves and let you know what is happening. So any events, any good news, anything going well this week, why don't we shout out? So,
Start off, Mandy.
Well, I'm Mandy Carstensen with My Mortgage Mandy and Q Home Loans. Usually John is here, and he's kind of the other half that people tend to think of first, of their real estate agent, and they do help you find the house, but even more importantly, maybe, I help you find the money for the house. So there's a lot of different programs, there's a lot of different ways, whether you're a seasoned investor or a first-time buyer. Sometimes just your own ideas are what are getting in your way. We have a lot of cool programs to put things side by side and make it really easy for you to know what's the best and most available to you. I also love to always plug dancings, which I do on Thursdays. So it is so much fun. There's tons of different lessons, all different levels. It's at Burbity and it starts at 6:30. So come and join us. It's loads of fun.
So I'm Heidi Simmons, and I help moms raise confident, resilient, independent individuals, and in 15 minutes a day. So it's easier than you might think if you have the right tools and resources, which is what I'm here for. So I have a workshop coming up in April, but that one's full, but I have another one coming up in May, which is for moms with kids that are in elementary school. So for more information, you can reach out to Heidi at empowerandengage.com.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm Kodie Hartin, and I work for Naomi Con Insurance Agency. I'm an insurance agent, and kind of can also go along in the homeowners. That's a little piece of it there. We're really passionate about educating people about insurance and making sure that you have all the right tools in your pocket. So if ever a claim does happen, people are in your corner.
Awesome.
I'm Daniel with ITO Nexus Technologies. I help businesses utilize technology as a competitive advantage. So stop looking at technology as chaos and let's start utilizing it to grow your business.
Perfect.
all right.
Motto Be Infinity, and I'm a artist, wellness therapist, sound healer, and I love making a difference. And look me up on Facebook, Instagram, and mottobeinfinity.com. Thank you so much.
Lovely.
Hello, I'm Zane with Go, and we help small business owners stop missing phone calls. It allows them to be focused on their work, doing what they do best, and we take the calls, get people scheduled using our software that we've created as well. We actually have been putting out a lot of social media content, so feel free to check it out. Some of it's just fun, playful, but we started kind of throwing out some business tips as well. So check us out on Facebook, Instagram, all the things.
Perfect.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. My name's Dave Ribble from Stand Up Marketing and Stand Up Mastery, and we have April 26th. Circle that on your calendar right now, because it's going to be a one-day training where we're going to have a lot of people going there, and there's going to be a lot of fun. I'm even going to feed you. It's April 26th. I can send information to you at dave@daveribble.com, and I'd be happy to do that. So look forward to seeing everybody there.
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
you know what I love about Costco?
What?
The older I get, the hot dogs stay the same price. And that's what this episode is brought to you by Costco. Costco Wholesale. Sell your home today, put it all into Costco stock, and live happily ever after. But on a lighter note, tomorrow night, 6 p.m., I'm hosting an AI group. It's going to be mostly attorneys. And it's going to be at the Steam Plant, 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Be there. See you.
Awesome.
All right, and we're back to the beginning. My name is Rob Reuter, and I own and operate IDIC Designs, diversity in infinite combinations. If you are challenged with finding the right fit for technology to your business plans and your goals, remember it's not about you adapting to technology, but technology adapting to you. So we are back another week. So let's take an opportunity, because we are waiting for our guest speaker today. But let's start with some of the challenges that finding that balance between being business owners and having family and connecting, the two together. Anyone have any insights on that? Hi. Yep. And so all right, welcome. You want to give us a quick intro?
Jen Barnhart, real estate agent.
Yeah, okay, great. So, as I said, what are the challenges? And I am going to pass the baton on this one because I am a single individual. And so, as I like to say, solopreneurs exist because we want to work any of the 24 hours in the day that we want to work.
Yeah.
So what is our challenges? What is our answers to some of these questions as a balance?
Well, I know that our guest speaker is kind of going to touch on exactly, that very delicate balance of having a very engaged work life, but then also having children. And I don't have a ton to say on that because I don't have children, but I did see a fabulous meme the other day that was kind of going on about those struggles that you can have in life, listing them off, and they were like, just remember you're not alone and toughen up because some other people actually have kids too. And I was like, you know what? That is right. Like, I'm never really having that bad of a day. So that was my 2 cents on the subject.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And we're gonna change real quick because Kodi has been able to join us, and so let me real quick introduce Kodi. If you'd speak for a minute, we'll get you on camera.
Yeah, my name is Kodie. I own Ribble, a women's size-inclusive boutique. We carry extra small to 3X. We're located on Monroe, and we just opened our Monroe location back in August.
Okay, great. Well, we're glad you joined us today, and I know our topic today was focused on moms. We do love bringing all sides to the business environment here. So if you'd like to start us off with giving us some guiding thoughts about this balance between business and home, especially when children are involved, and then we'll just kind of open up the table and get everyone involved.
Yeah, well, I like to kind of, they're both very similar, right? So owning a business is a very dynamic, you need a support system, you need people cheering you on, and same thing with parenting. So I look at it as how do you create a support system and a team to be able to support you being able to raise your children and run a business, and also be able to show your children that you can do big hard things, and that you just need to be able to find those resources and build that support. So I guess I always ask other people, like, how do you create a support system for your business, and how do you do it with your home life?
Yeah. So do you have anything to get us started with? What kind of support systems have you built so far in your experience?
Yeah, so I think having a team of employees that understand that it's not just, me solo running a business, that I have kids, and that know that, occasionally there's going to be children running around, and that it's going to be a little chaos, and finding people that thrive in that chaos. And so I guess a good way to kind of think about how you are creating this support system is who do you go to when you're like, I'm having a rough day and I'm kind of conflicted, like looking at who you are reaching out to, and then having like a supportive partner. So my husband is very supportive, and he helps with the kids and with the business, and so I've kind of been able to tap into my family and my employees on both ends and create people that are understanding of all levels of my life and me as a person, and not just like I'm here to just do a job.
Okay. Anyone have some matching experience or insights on that?
Well, especially mentioning the specifics of what you're looking for in that team. I think, anybody who's part of hiring is really looking for that compatibility of people that really want to be part of something more than just clocking in and out. Do you have a specific hiring process or something that you do to find those types of people, or
Yeah.
really, tap into whether they would be that fit or not?
Yeah, so I do actually, I have one employee that is a mom, and so one of the dynamics that I included into our storefront was that in our back room, we have a family room. So we have a place where, like, if you don't have childcare or you don't have a resource for that day to help, you can still come to work and you can bring your child with you. And so making sure that, like, also too, that who we hire and like our customers, they know that we are not like, you can bring your kids. Your kids are welcome. Like, don't feel like you're ever a burden bringing your child and they're running through the racks. Like, we have stuff to entertain them. Like, it's not like, we're not hard about it. Like, it's good. Like, it's a welcome everyone. And yeah, so being able to provide a space for my employees to have their kids there is a big weight lifted off, I think, for them. And I think being able to tell people when they are like applying and through the interview process that, like, we are supportive of mothers working and trying to make a living for their family, because it's hard. It's not an easy job to be a mom and to work, and so anything we can do to also support our employees and people that invest in us is a key thing for us.
I love that.
Is it possible then to have, just to expand that or build on it, do you have a daycare center that could also be incorporated here?
I mean, we don't have the space on site for that. And I think with our hours and the dynamic of our boutique in general, because we have our storefront, and then we also have a mobile boutique, which is a vintage camper, so we take that to bigger shows. So not every aspect of the business is available for people to be able to bring their children. So, like, if I had an employee that was like, hey, I know this event's coming up, I can't find childcare, can I work the store while so-and-so works the event with you? So there's that flexibility, but I wouldn't say that we on-site have the capacity to have a full daycare, especially with the laws and restrictions when it comes to all of the being licensed and the restrictions with, everything from like the health department and stuff like that. It just brings in another element that our business isn't compatible for, but a mom bringing her child is not something that we would ever be like, no, you can't do that. So I don't think that would necessarily be something that would fit for us, but it is a cool model to think about for bigger corporations and stuff like that.
If you had the room.
Yeah, yeah.
And people that worked for you also had children, it just seemed like it was a good way to look at that.
Yeah, I think for bigger corporations, that is definitely something that should be advocated for more, because then I think, you would have more productivity, your employees would be less stressed, they would know that they get to come to work, their child's just, on the, a couple rooms over or down a couple floors, and you wouldn't have that stress of, am I going to make it to the babysitter on time? Is the babysitter going to be, up to work watching my child today? Those kind of other things that play into it.
Anyway, you for as a small business owner, the overhead that you would need to have for that, because you'd have to have a whole separate set of employees
Yep.
to be watching those children. Because otherwise, I'd be stressed if my kids were at work with me.
Yeah.
That would take me away. I'm stressed when I have to work from home on my computer. Go.
Well, I think the thing is just being boutique is that it's not like a super fast-paced environment, and our room is set up with toys, and we have a TV, and there's a couch, and
So you have a whole separate room for the kiddos.
yes, an entire. There's nothing, no product in there, nothing like that. So it's completely separate. I have a couple infants myself, so we have high chairs too. So we have a little kitchen area. So it's friendly on that end for it, and our shifts currently with winter hours are not super long, so you're only having your child there for a handful of hours. And I think the workload too, because we try to be really flexible with how things are delegated. You don't have that high demand of you have a due date at 5 p.m., but your child's running around the other room being wild, and you're I don't know what to do. So I think also being just flexible in all areas, you have to have grace for yourself, knowing that yes, you may have these demands and these deadlines, but knowing that we're still living life. Everything still continues to go on, and it's not always going to be perfect.
Yeah, I used to have a bakery in Davenport, and I had 4 boys.
Yeah.
And there was a little apartment in the back, but they never wanted to be back there. They wanted to be out in the bakery. I don't know. No.
Yes, full of pastries and mom. What's a better combo than that?
What could go wrong?
You'd be surprised.
I like that you talk about having the space for it too. Where I'm at, we have plenty of space, so we actually my kids will come to work, and then we've had some of my staff bring their kids, and we actually decided one time hey, let's just have a bring your kid day.
Yeah.
And so it was a little hectic.
Yeah.
But the kids loved it. They were just watching shows and playing, and everybody was working. And so I think having the space, but then creating that environment where not only is it acceptable, but it's normal.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, we're all. Most people have children, and so it's being open to just normal life. We're the demands of normal society wanting us to work a 9 to 5 and provide for our family, but then it's our children and their needs are not really thought about in that dynamic. And so being able to bring them to work and also showing them what you do and being that example, that role model. And I think that that's been a big drive for me is showing my kids look what you can create, look at what you can do. The world is your oyster. You can do anything you want, and you can make it work. Even with, because I have 5 kids. Even with 5 kids, you can do it. Yeah. So it's So it's doable. But I think just creating that support system and knowing that you're human, giving yourself grace, giving your kids grace. They're little humans too. They're not always going to wake up and have the best day and be ready to go. They're going to have rough mornings. They're going to be, they're not going to like their lunch that day. And those are just that goes with, it's par for the course.
I really love that because, average daycare for an infant or toddler full-time is close to $2,000. And so most parents, especially here, that work a job in retail, that's paying rent. It's paying 2 times your rent. And so it really becomes, like you say, a huge burden. I've been there when my kids were younger too. You just can't afford it. Plus, you have the issue of I wasn't comfortable with my kids in daycare, especially when they were younger. But that's because I worked in daycares and had a degree in child development, and I saw what went on in there. I was not comfortable with them being in there. So that created another thing because you're always looking for a job where you can either work from home or, what are you going to do? So I love that you're doing that. My daughter's pregnant right now with her first, and she's struggling with that because, she's in a have the baby and she wants a job, but you know, she's like, I'm not going to be able to afford daycare, you know,
Yeah.
and it's tough. So I love that what you're doing. It's amazing.
Yeah. I've seen a couple other small businesses implement, like just letting their employees bring their kids to work, and I think it is just more beneficial too. Like I said, the demands aren't like they're not huge that I'm like having my employees do. So being able to just like if you're there and you're able to just give some customer service and make the customer feel great while they're there and still like love on your child. And usually customers when they come in, they see you're holding a baby or something, they get excited. Like they're like, oh my gosh, there's a baby.
Everybody
It's
would
never
have to-
like, oh my gosh, there's a baby. They're excited. They're like, oh my gosh, the baby's so cute. And I mean, I think it's not normalized because I do get a lot of people who are like, oh, you bring your kid to work? And I'm like, yeah, like I try to only one day a week, but yes, I do. And like, cause I have to be, you know, I have the heaviest workload owning the business, but, yeah, I'm like, yeah, I bring them about once a week and they're like, that is so cool. And I was like, yeah, we have a whole room that they get to hang out and play. And, I mean, I had someone where we're doing interviews for a seasonal position and, one of the gals had messaged me when I was setting up the interview if she could bring her baby, and I was like, well, yeah, like I mean I'm not going to say no, you can't bring your baby to your interview. Like I mean it's part of the course. Like I want people to feel welcome in all dynamics, and like we have clothing, and some of our stuff is tailored to moms, so like creating that environment where moms and women are welcome in all capacity is really beneficial for our brand. So
Could probably increase sales, just hand the baby over to them.
yeah,
Like
Yeah,
a
that's a
warm
really good
puppy,
sales tactic.
right?
yeah, exactly.
No, I love the dynamic there. Working with a lot of different businesses in different industries, I actually had a client, they actually had hired a babysitter for their staff's kids for the back room, and they just split it among their staff.
Yeah.
So it's like they had a big
That's a
enough
good
room in the
idea.
back room, and it was like, oh yeah, we're just gonna hire a babysitter to watch the kids for when they get out of school and while you guys are working. And
That's
it was
great.
the owner's oldest daughter.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Well, it takes the liability
Yeah.
off that way too.
Right.
And if everybody
Yeah.
signs a waiver.
Yeah, sign a waiver, and then having the it's like a nanny share.
Yeah.
Like, where everyone contributes.
yeah, and it worked
to
out
it.
really well. And it was, I was like, hey, that's really ingenuity.
Smart.
Very small town, so it worked.
Yeah,
It was back in southern Idaho. Yeah, before I came here.
yeah. The dynamic of just being like you just have to have that support when you're raising kids and having your own life and running a business and or working for a company. Like you got to be able to have that support, and that's why like having a support system, having it be dynamic to where you have different people that can help in different ways. Like maybe you have an evening where you have some event to go to and it's really important for your business, but it's like 7 to 9 p.m. But being able to have someone like in your back pocket, you can call and say, hey, I know you don't ever mind watching later in the night. Are you able to watch from 6:30 to 9:30? I have this thing. And I think just creating that support system, and also like knowing that the people like you work with, making sure that they know like I'm also human. Like I'm not just I'm not just your boss. I'm not just your coworker. Like I have a family. I have kids, and there's going to be part of that in every aspect of it. And I started this business online as a stay-at-home mom, so I wanted something that could be like something that I could do while still raising my kids. And so as we've opened the storefront and grew the business, we've just had to kind of pivot and make sure that every way I'm still able to meet my own personal needs with my children by creating and that was one of the things when we opened this location on Monroe is I was looking for a commercial space that had a space that I could have my kids in. And then I just figure years down the road when they grow older, it can either be an extra office or something like that, but just a room where they have a place of their own. They've got, we bought special toys for the place, like they have TV in there and the couch, and so just as the business has grown, thought about ways to continue to be able to meet the needs of my own family while also being able to grow my business. So, creating a support system is really huge, I think, with business owning in itself and then also being a parent.
I was thinking a little bit, in some ways, I was thinking it's not too far off of this being social common, because I can remember back to my childhood before I was old enough to work, and I would spend summers with my dad. Going to work with him was a requirement because he was in construction, and so there was the cabinet shop, there was the houses that were being built and things, and it was just automatic. My sister and I, we got up in the morning and we left with him, and we spent all day going around to all the projects. So the question here could be, what are cultural shifts that need to occur, like what Kodi is doing, that we can help raise awareness for other businesses? I was wondering, for instance, when you went looking for your retail location, you had this in mind. And I was just in another place this morning that is being remodeled to fit new businesses in, and I was just thinking about it in terms of, if you are involved in those retail locations, can you make space in there that
like mixed use?
Yeah, mixed use, where it says, yes, this is a retail location, but there's still a part of that floor plan that is private space for this. Is there any other ways to raise cultural awareness, or as to make it more family friendly workspaces?
Most of my businesses have been like single owned, and like as a real estate agent, like lots of times I'll take my kids along with me, but I don't typically take them in the house unless it's like friends or family that has known us for a long time.
Right.
I did, when they were younger, have them be like my flyer ninjas, right? They would go and like I'd take pictures and whatever, but there's also like I had to find at my boy's request, because I didn't have like boundaries on that, right? Like I'd post pictures of my kids putting flyers and signs, or like we'd be out at the park playing, and I'd find friends' mom, and we'd end up talking and make friends, and then I'd sell them a house or whatever, right? But then my kids got to a point where we'd walk into a restaurant or something, and people would like recognize them, and they'd be like, oh, like I just saw that you were in the soccer game the other day, and blah blah blah, whatever. And he's like, my kids are going, we don't know any of these people, right? So like I had always worked like 9 to 5 and whatever, and I had never had the opportunity to like go to the park with my kids during the day. That was like foreign, right? But then I could do that and actually make business opportunity with it too, right? But then I had to establish that boundary too, where it didn't overlap into like my kids' privacy and stuff.
Right.
And so I think that there are a lot of like businesses and companies that you can have that in, and of course like smaller mom and pop shops always way more accommodating than big corporations. But there's also some types of industries and things that like I don't feel like it's things that kids should be in, right?
When did you start it?
I started my business back in 2018.
So COVID,
Pre-COVID.
pre-COVID, and then you were staying at home and running it there.
Yeah, so I was open from 2018 till about the beginning of COVID. During COVID, I stopped running my business. I ended up getting a job in healthcare. And then at the end of COVID, end of 2021, I restarted it online and then kind of grew it again from there. And from when I started it to now, I started it when I had 2 kids, and she was like 6 months, my oldest daughter was 6 months at the time, and my son was almost 3. And then in 2021, when I relaunched it, I was pregnant with my 3rd child, and then since then we've had an additional 2. And yeah, I was going to say, bouncing off of what you said when it comes to the privacy aspect too, it's kind of up to how comfortable you feel. Like we don't post about our kids a lot. Like I just made a reel the other day, and it's just the back of my kids. It's not their faces. Sometimes I'll post an occasional picture on the stories of my 8-year-old loves to come and work the register. That's her thing. She loves working in the shop. She will sneak into my car, and I'll be getting ready to go, and she'll be like, I'm coming to work with you, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not even gonna argue with you. You're coming, I guess. And so occasional story post of that. But yeah, I think it does also, there is that aspect of privacy and how much you want your kids out there for the world to see.
You have younger kids, and times have changed. Like my kids are all grown now.
Yeah.
So I mean, like it's it's scarier now too.
Yeah.
And having, especially, you said yours are all like, how
So I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, almost 3-year-old, and then we foster an 11-month-old. So I call them ours because we've had them since birth, and then our 8-month-old. So 2 infants, and then a toddler, and then 2 older children. And my son hates Kevin, so yeah, it's not his favorite thing. He really always groans and moans. I'm like, there's a TV. You can at least watch TV. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that hard. And I try to keep snacks there too, so that they're all, they have snacks and things to look forward to. But yeah, I think privacy is the other aspect of it too. Is also being comfortable with like the public seeing you with your child. So most of the time when I have my infants there, we have a baby swing in the room, so she'll either be there or I'll be holding her. And so there's not like necessarily, unless something really bad were to happen, but there is that aspect of, if people come in and they see you with your child, and weirdly enough, but yeah, and then there's also the aspect too of like, then your kids get older and then they are around all your friends, and your friends know them, but then they're like, I don't remember this person.
None of us are cool to them.
Yeah, like, I don't know why do they know who I am? I'm like, well, because they watched you grow up. Like, they saw your pictures everywhere. So, but yeah, so pre-COVID started it, and then took a break during COVID, then reopened, grew it, and added a handful more children in the process.
And when did you start the brick and mortar part of the business?
Yeah, so that is kind of another very dynamic aspect. And so walking into the idea of opening a brick and mortar was not something I was sure that I was ready to commit with. And so I found a salon in the Valley. It's actually just right over here. And she was looking to rent out her old space that she used to have her boutique in. But she was just renting it out, and you had to staff it and do everything else on your own. So it was kind of just like a pop-up shop, but they didn't do any of the work. It was all on me. And so with a sublease of only being month to month and then a low rent, it made a really low commitment into seeing if I would even like brick and mortar style boutique. So I did that. So we opened that location in 2022. And so we had that pop up there for about a year. And then we outgrew the space. And so we moved into another similar styled sublease pop up in a salon downtown. And we were there for about another year. And I think from the Valley location to downtown, it was also to kind of figuring out location wise, like, because we also had the customers from the salon coming in, so we already had that automatic traffic, but like figuring out where for us and the type of business we would thrive most in Spokane Valley. And so moving downtown, we had a little more space, the overhead was a little bit more, and it was kind of just making sure that I didn't bite off more than I could chew in any of these transitions. And when we got downtown, I was kind of like, okay, I love doing this, I love having a storefront, but my big gripe that I'm having right now, and the biggest dynamic that's challenging, is the child factor. I don't have anywhere, there was nowhere for me to do it on either. Thankfully, when I did have the space in the Valley, my 3-year-old was a baby, and so the salon ladies loved having the babies there, so I always just brought my daughter, and I would just front pack her a lot of the time. And my older 2 were in school, so it made it easy on that end. But then when I got downtown, there wasn't any back room or anything like that. And also being downtown, you're dealing with a lot more foot traffic, and it just was not a space that was kid friendly for me to be able to have my kids there. And so then we grew out of that location, and so I was like, okay, I definitely want to keep doing this, and I think I'm ready to commit to a longer lease and to like find our home. And with that, I was like, I knew I needed to have a full room or a back room big enough that I could have a space for my kids so that they could come and be occupied and not be always struggling to find someone to watch them, because that consistency too is hard when it comes to childcare. Like, yes, if you pay for daycare, but then you're paying for pretty much your entire wage for the month in daycare fees just to be able to work, and so that's not really beneficial at all. So then I was just finding that space that would allow me to be able to have my children there.
And so you really have had a enjoyment and a lot of success with the brick and mortar? Because I've even wondered when I see kind of these smaller boutiques with how much shopping is online, is this just beneficial because they needed a place to store it anyways, and so they might as well have something open, but then when you're staffing, that's, not just easy. So, but you get a lot of traffic and you're still experiencing, because you just see so many of them closing.
Yeah, I think that it is, I think owning a business just in every aspect, there's always going to be the right recipe, maybe wrong time, right time. And so I think for us, we really lucked out. When I was looking for our brick and mortar, I started looking at the beginning of 2024. So January, I got with a broker, started looking at spaces. And the space we actually settled on was not something I necessarily was really keen on. I was like, this is a little different. And I don't know if you all are familiar with the Gilded Lily on Monroe. It's the yellow and blue house, florist shop. Well, that's where we are. It's now pink and white. Yeah, so it's pink and white now. That's our boutique spot. And so when I got the flyer, my broker's like, I don't really know if it's up your alley. And I was like, oh, yellow and blue house. I couldn't even imagine us being in there. And so I ended up going and looking at it. And I think the way we've been able to kind of keep pushing through kind of these differences in the way that shopping is changing and those other aspects is that we took an old vintage house, turned it into a boutique, which is not something you see normally. So we've already kind of hit a unique shopping experience. We've really honed in on like what our customer is, and creating that community around it. We do a lot of things to try to partner and collaborate with other businesses. And we also are the only size inclusive boutique in Spokane. So we carry extra small to 3X. We try to push that because we know that like we want a place for everyone, not just moms, not just, size mediums. Like we want anyone and everyone to come in. I mean, we've even carried androgynous styles that, you could purchase and a size bigger for you. Maybe it fits you and your husband and it's a sweater. So trying to be more dynamic with not even just like who we are, but what we offer, how we're offering it, how we're trying to set ourselves apart by, the experience of, a lot of people when they come in, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cute in here. And it's creating that experience, bringing in, knowing that people, when they come in, that they're welcomed. And I think that's kind of it, is people still want to shop in person. Mm-hmm. They still want to go in and try something on, and have that personalized experience. I mean, even in the digital era, they say that, even though everything's so digital now, like we're the most depressed as well because we're not getting that human connection. And if we only went to online shopping, then what are you going to do for your girls' days? What are you going to go do with your mom on a Sunday afternoon after you've had brunch? There's those aspects to it. So being able to have that space for community, and we like to put on events. So we do our March event. We did a Lucky Girl soiree. So we did like a St. Patrick's Day evening where we had some pop-up vendors and we did complimentary food. We had some tarot reading, and just creating that like more intimate experience to where we can connect with our customers. And I'm always there so that I can sit there and interact and meet the people that come in and support us. But it is one of those things where like you do see a lot of businesses, and like there's only a handful of boutiques left in Spokane. And so I think it's really just trying to continue to make sure that you're not just a Target or a Walmart. Like when they come in, they're feeling something. Like they come in and like we have a specific scent that we have throughout our store. Like the music is specific, and the customer service. So it's encompassing an experience with a new dress for Easter. So trying to just, I think in all aspects too. Obviously, it's very dependent on businesses, but when you look at what kind of business you're running, like how can you increase customer experience? Because that's how you retain people. That's how you that's how you not only retain people, but that's how you build those relationships that are going to last. Mm-hmm. So, and then being community oriented, because this is the same community that's supporting you. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, the collaboration piece, really creating an experience. I love all that.
yeah.
So I have a kind of a question for all the women entrepreneurs here. So I have 2 daughters, and they're talking about what they want to do and as their future. So as women entrepreneurs, what are some things that are out there for you now? Because I know that there's a lot more programs and benefits to support women entrepreneurs. But what are some of the challenges that you're still struggling with too in kind of starting your own business?
I've had lots of different kinds of businesses, and like the easiest ones to start were like the ones where I didn't have to have employees, where it was just me and I could set my own schedule and things like that, and then I built up a client base. So like I've had cleaning companies, those worked really well. That's something that's always in demand, and if you are good at it and make sure that you do what your client likes, then they'll always have you back, and it pays pretty well too. And yeah, that's one where it's really great because it's very not reliant upon most other people's schedules, because most people will leave so that you can clean their house and go do something nice and then come back to it nice and clean, right? I had an all combat veteran construction company. We did mostly roofing, and that worked well for me because I'm already a real estate agent, so it synced up. I was in an office full of other real estate agents, and they all knew me well, and so like I had so many roofs to do, it wasn't even funny, but that grew too fast. So like I like what you said about dipping your toes in and making sure that it's something you want to do before you. I'm not that way. I'm like, hey, there's that, and I just go full bore. Smarter. But for me, the construction company, because we got so much demand, right? And what's difficult for me is when people need me, I want to make sure that they get what they want, right? I'm that kind of person. Don't put that on there. But we were getting so many roofs and people wanted them done, and I didn't want to give up the jobs. So then I just started hiring more guys, and then before I knew it, I had 9 guys, and it's all combat vets, and they're hard enough to deal with anyway, right? And so it was too much for me. It lasted like 2 years, and then it was like I couldn't anymore. Real estate is something that's changing right now, so that's a difficult profession, whether you're male, female, or otherwise. It's something it's changing right now a lot. So like if it were me, how old are your kiddos?
Oh, they should have 12 and 10.
12 and 10. Yeah, I mean, the best thing to tell them, what I tell my kids is like, find what you love. And then do that while you're young enough to still fall down a whole bunch. Find what you love, and then stick with it. And
Well, the other cool thing about that is I've told my kids the same thing, is go make your mistakes on somebody else's dime.
Yep. Yeah, so when I started real estate, I would run teams. So I would do the admin part, the marketing part, or whatever, and worked into management in the teams. And then by the time that I became an agent, I knew all the contracts inside and out. I had the bumpers and the bowling lane, right? Like I had all of that knowledge that like I could bounce off of. So like I didn't fail in that. I've been going for a real long time now. So, and I'm grateful for that. So I like that.
I have another question. Is there a market out there of qualified people to work for you, or do you struggle trying to find people who are responsible?
I would say I actually don't really struggle to find people that are responsible. A lot of the people that I end up hiring are, they're happy to be there, they're excited to be there, and I think that's kind of the other aspect is that I've always been very transparent with who I've hired, that like if you don't like being here, I don't want you here either. Like that means that what you're doing here is stopping you from doing something you enjoy. So it's not me, it's not you, it's that you need to find what you enjoy doing. And I think that is almost just like a trickle effect. Like if you go to work and you're unhappy and you're dealing with the public, then they're not going to get a good experience with you. And then for me, it's like then my business is having this space of, well, I came in there and the gal helping me wasn't very nice. Like I'm not going to go back there. And so I think that is a lot of the time people, I mean, I don't have a very big team. I don't have the capacity for a lot because we have so many hours during our slow season, and then during our busy season, we do pick up. But with one location, which I wouldn't expand, we'd only have the one location. it's not like there's a room for me to have 10 people working for me. At this point in time, of course, I would love to have a huge team and be shipping all over the country and, you know, doing so many events. But I think having a small team too helps because you can just tell when, like, if someone's having an off time or maybe they're just not enjoying whatever you give them, like being flexible and delegating. Like, if you're not liking this, let's try something different. But yeah, most of the people that apply, they're seeking us out. Like, we just throw it up on social media and they send us. And I mean, if they schedule the interview and then they show up to the interview, usually they're pretty eager to be there. So
If they show up, that's a good sign.
yeah, if they show up, yeah.
Well, and you're offering something that's really, you know, of the collaboration that you're building. Because I love what you're saying about how you're offering this also to your employees. Because I think a lot of business owners would be like, well, it's okay for me because I've built this business. And like you said, I have a heavier workload. I have to be here more often. But it's not okay for you.
Yeah.
And I think that what you've created of really figuring out what you want and then applying it to other people is very special. And I think that, you know, speaks volumes of the people that you'd be able to not only source, but then keep happy.
Yeah.
Because you are really practicing what you preach in that trickle-down effect, that you've built something through your own blood, sweat, and tears. You could feel like you've earned the right to have something that you didn't offer to other people, but that's where the true change comes from. And your question, I think no matter what industry any woman gets into, if you are having biological children, no matter how involved your partner is, there's a certain stage where it's all you. Mm-hmm. And that comes with sacrifice, and that comes with a certain, you know, we all know what we've done to get where we are, and if we took 5 years, 6 years off, that would affect a lot of different things in our career path and in our opportunities. So I think the number one thing is getting more of this, getting more and more away from corporate, where they don't know you as anything other than a number. They're never going to truly be trying to think in these kinds of terms of what they can build. So I think this is a beautiful thing for all of us small business owners to really tap into and just see, you know, be the change that you want to see.
Yeah.
And you really are creating a difference. And I think that's going to be the number one thing, is figuring out how do we have families and build families and then also build careers, because it's very important. We do not have a sect of our population that's just staying home and staying, you know, fulfilling one goal that was already predestined for them. We're all getting to find our joy and how to express that. And as a society, we've got to figure out, you know, how do we do that? Because do we want more children who are nice? Well, we probably need to figure that out.
Well, and I think just tapping into two different things you said, you know, I think when it comes to raising kids and families in our society now, I mean, my husband works a blue-collar job, but the cost of living, we're not living in a society that the man can go to work and fund everything. Like,
Right.
it's now two incomes that have to be there to support the family dynamic. And so then, you know, when it comes to corporate, like, I worked a corporate job, and that same thing you said, like, my supervisor, she would bring her kids to work and she'd jump on the phones and they would text me and be like, hey, can you come and work today? And I told them, I said, yeah, I can bring my kids. And they'd be like, sorry, we found someone else. It's like, and that's kind of it, is that, like, I'm happy to be there and show up, but you also understand, like, my kids also are, like, I'm working to feed them, I'm working to raise them, I'm working to, like, support my family and also invest in my children, and I'm not going to take every minute of my life and my opportunity.
But there's a catch-22 that we all know too, is that you can have kids, you can have a job, you can have a career, but the borderline point that I've experienced personally is you get to the point where you start resenting the job, or you start resenting the family, because you're trying to make everything work at the same time.
But I think that's where your support system comes in.
Has to be.
Yeah.
Well, and the traditional system is that you are in the middle, your family is over here, and then your career is over here. And they are literally pulling you apart, trying to each get fed enough. And nobody is going to find comfort in that type of a dynamic.
Well,
and
then
so
you're not your best at either one.
Right.
Yeah.
So this change of culture, this really, you know, unification of them both, where you're not having to decide every day which one takes the priority, which one wins, and you're making it an easy decision. So I love what you're doing.
And I think what's important, I've been looking for the entry into this, is the role that we have to play, both as business owners, but as consumers too. We work with businesses, and we have to become more open. If we want this to work, we have to be willing to say, I'm going to walk into a business location and I'm going to see children there. Now, obviously, we don't want, them out of control, but we need to be respectful that, there are people trying to make it, and the more we can support that
Yes.
in our whether it's being our consumers with businesses like Kodie's, where there is that mindset, or we are pointing it out when we see it to them and saying, hey, I see you brought your children, that's cool,
Yeah.
because we need to support.
But I think also when you're working and your mom, finding a way to be intentional with your kids. When you're home with them, it's like leave work out the door, and then when you go to work, have a family. You still know your family's there, but it's like focus on your work when you're at work, and then be very intentional with your family when you're with your family. And not like bring home,
Sure.
all the stress that's happening at work, bringing that home to your kids, because they had nothing to do with that.
Well, and I think on the flip
Yeah.
side of that too is then that's where like we peeled back that layer of not bringing your stress to work, that like, oh, you had a hectic morning because your babysitter fell through and then you
Yeah.
had to find someone last
Exactly.
minute. Like, if your babysitter falls through, bring your kid. Like, it's not the end of the world. And honestly, even with us having our family room that we have, we don't. It's not even utilized as much as it, I mean, you could have someone there bringing their kid every day. I mean, I only bring my kids like once a week. One of my other employees, she usually does it once a week too. So it's not even like that you're coming in too and there's kids running amok the whole time. Like, it's really very hit and miss, and it's just to add that extra layer of, showing that, you're investing in us, we're investing in you, and that's, I think, where it kind of comes back for me too, is that I want those quality employees. I want people that are going to be happy to be there, and so how can I invest in them and make this a space where it's not just my space, it's our space. Like, this is our team. Like, we work together to, build this business.
I think it's also good for the kids to see that you're working, and so I've always worked from home, so my kids have always kind of seen me work. Although I always schedule it like when they're at school. So when COVID hit, that was kind of interesting because then the kids were like, "Oh, wait, Mom really does work."
So just sit at home.
Had to make some other adjustments, but I think it's good for your kids being at the store and seeing you work, and because they're learning from that, and they're seeing your customer service, and so then as they grow, they're gonna.
When my kids were little, I can remember, I had a pretty intense kind of work that I was doing, and it involved travel. And I had to finally make a deal with their mother that I just needed 30 minutes when I walked back in the door at night. Just give me 30 minutes to defuse. And then I'll deal with all of the disciplinary stuff that you've been waiting for me to talk to the kids about, which was always true. You have to talk to Joe. Why? Why didn't you talk to Joe? You need to talk to Joe. Okay. Just give me 30 minutes first.
And that's actually a good thing for all of us. It's like when you're coming home from that long day, take that 30 minutes. When your kids come home from school, give them 30 minutes to just kind of wind down, because they have a bunch of emotions and stuff they dealt with during their day that they need to process. And then after 30 minutes, y'all come back together, and the evening goes a little bit smoother.
Sometimes.
Well, it's not perfect.
And that's why I say, like, kids are are us too. Like they're working through their emotions. They're learning. Like, I mean, you can read as many parenting books as you want, but you're never going to know how to navigate those situations until you're living it in real time. And I mean, it's like the other day, my kids got in the car and my daughter was yelling and my son was upset about something else, and I don't remember. I didn't say anything, but then later on, my son was like to my husband, he's like, well, Mom didn't even say if I asked me if I had a good day or not. I'm like, your sister was yelling at me as soon as she got in the car. What are you talking about? I didn't have a second to like take a breath and say, hey, how was school today? So it is funny because they do. They everyone needs that like little bit of decompress. And I mean, I think, you know, every time you go from work to home, it's a transition. You gotta, you know, you're moving into your next role or the next thing to do. And yeah, we spent the summer remodeling the space, and my kids were off from school the whole summer, and so they spent a lot of days there as we were working. And my 10-year-old, there's an old fireplace inside the boutique that we painted, and before we painted it, I gave him a toothbrush. I said, start scrubbing in the cracks. He did that for like 2 hours. And so I think it's good too, because, you know, like not even just the customer service aspect, it's teaching your children, you know, hard work and discipline and motivation, and that they can do big, hard things. And I mean, my daughter, she's very ambitious for 8 years old, and I think that her seeing me open a business and start a business and do all these things has really encouraged her. And so, yeah, I mean, it's life. It's hard. You got your hard days, you got your good days, and you know, some half ones in between. But I think having that support system and being able to pivot and always find a solution. Like, it's never really the end of the world. Like, it's never like, whether you're late or, you know, something didn't go right or you're behind on your deadline, like, it's never the end of the world. You just pivot and, you know, find a solution. And when it comes to being a mom and owning a business, that is the big thing. You've got to be able to be quick to find this new solution for something that maybe didn't align or didn't work out how you planned, or, you know, the babysitter didn't show up, or whatever the case was.
So we're just about to the end of our hour here. Does anyone have a wrap up takeaway we can leave with? Not gonna try to have everyone, but if somebody has.
You know, I have something to add, because I think when you're working and you're raising kids, it's also important to keep your spouse in the picture. And so having a date night, whether that's weekly or monthly, but being very intentional to make sure that you're still having that date night.
Okay. Yeah. What, Avi, did you?
I'm going to quickly chime in, you know, how you were sharing how stressful life can be, not only having kids. I don't have kids myself, so I'm like, hats off. I don't know how I do that and work, because working is hard enough. And for me, you know, you saying, I was thinking, interesting, you know, a lot of things are popping in my head when you're all sharing. And, you know, growing up, I didn't have anybody in my life that would model how to do business, how to run business. And you asking, what am I today as a woman struggling with business? I don't know how to do that stuff. So what you guys do here, I really appreciate coming together and collaborating, because I need help. I'm a creative, I'm an artist, and, you know, kind of a healer type and wellness person, and yeah, I need you. Thank you for being here. And I'm here to help ease stresses with the services that I provide. So I invite you to check it out.
All right.
Perfect. I love that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad each of you came out today, and for our audience online, we are at Action Business Furniture on East Sprague. We're here every Friday afternoon from 3 to 4 o'clock, and we are building out our list of topics going through. I think we've got all of April already set and things, and so the topics are going to continue, and we hope you're going to check in with us. and find out what's new in small business in Spokane. Mike, you want to send us out?
All right. So today was brought to you by the letter Q for Q Home Loans and My Mortgage Mandy for bringing the food. I'd also like you to give a special thanks to our guest. Be sure to check out her links in the video description below and give Kodi some pay drinking. Also, be sure to like and share this because sharing is caring. We rely on subscribers like you. Thank you for clicking agree, and we're selling your data. Till next time.
All right. We're out.